How's it going, guys? I'm Taters from Team Slap Taters,
And I'm Max Tyler.
and we're going to be doing a series together from now on, and it's going to be called Co-op Perfection. So, you want to explain a little bit about what it's about?
Yeah, no problem. So, Co-op Perfection and is going to be doing the Gishki Destiny Hero deck, and we're kind of going to work on it together and make it the best to give it can be, and give a little backstory. We both like had the same train of thought and started making this deck like unbeknownst to each other. We didn't know about each other's builds. And one day we kind of like ran into each other's builds online. And we're like, wow, like we both had the same idea and same thought patterns. Our deck were different in some ways, but we were both going around the same line, and we just kind of decided to work on it from there because we saw how unique and kind of the same that we were going on it, and we thought we could make it better that way.
Yeah, I've been working on doing this for like a lot longer, but like I didn't try. I saw your build, and I was kind of heartbroken because I at first I had thought you stole the idea from me. But then we talked it out and we decided we're just going to do it together because we're both reasonable people.
Yeah, yeah, it was actually like funny too because I was working on it and I thought, I was like, oh my god, it's my own idea, whatever. And then he messaged me on Delete Number saying, why'd you steal it? And I was like, oh no, because like I hadn't seen his videos in a while because I was just so busy with school and stuff like that. And I went on and saw the similarities, but Team Slabby being a reasonable guy, I realized that I wouldn't steal his stuff, and so we decided to make it. Here we are today, and try to make it the best deck possible.
All right, so we just sat for about a good half an hour and bounced ideas off of each other and talked about our builds, and then we finally came upon like a common build between each other. And you just want to go ahead and run through that?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll run through the monster lineup, and you can tell them the spells.
All right.
So we got one Eevee Gishki Tetra Ogre, one Minangus. We dropped the Gust Kraken just because it didn't seem to like flow with the deck quite as well. But we're testing things. So right now we just have the Tetra Ogre and Minangus. And then we got two Destiny Her Maliciouses, two Dashers, one Diamond Dew because there's a lot of normal spell targets for him. One Doomlord, that's another thing we decided to test out. We'll see how it works just because it could be really good at times and it's a Destiny draw target, if anything. And then one Stratos, just getting the Destiny heroes to your hand. Three Gishki Shadows. Three Gish, or did we agree on two or three Gishki Visions?
We dropped it down to two.
Okay. Three Gishki Abyss. One Plague Spreader.
Did you? Does your build have gores in it?
No, it does not. That was the thing that's what my three Gishki Visions was.
Ah, there we go.
Okay, so now we have the Gores. Alright, so Gores and then Plague Spreader.
Yeah. All right. So for the spell lineup, we run a little heavy on spells. We got what, 21,
Yep.
and I think every one of them are normal except for the rituals and the one burial.
Yep.
So what is that? That's 16 targets for Diamond Dude.
So that's a shit ton.
Yeah, it's a shit ton. So we'll go ahead and run you through them. We have our three Destiny Draw. We have our three Gishki Aqua Mirrors. Our three Miracle Fusions. Two Pot of Duality. Three One Day of Peace. We'll get around to talking that here in a minute. And we kind of we talked about that one quite a bit. Two Salvage. One Burial from a different dimension. One Reinforcement of the Army. One Heavy Storm. One Dark Hole. And one Reborn. And I'll just go ahead and run you guys real quick through the extra deck. So we won't talk about the extra deck too much because it's kind of self-explanatory, but I'll just go ahead and run you through it. We have two Zeros, one Armory Arm, Catastor, and a level 6 Synchro. I don't quite know which one we're going to do yet because there's so many bad ones now. Um, then we have Scrap Dragon, Stardust, and Thought Ruler. And for the Xyz, we have one Gotchi, one Utopia, one Photon Butterfly, an Exabeetle, Photon Strike Bouncer, a Sword Breaker, and a Thunder Charger. All right, so let's get into some talking about some Gishkis.
Yep. Did you want to explain to them the one day a piece thing?
Yeah, we'll lead off with that. So, the main differences between our build is that I chose before we unified on one build between each other. He was running the tour guide engine and the Gishki Abysses. I was not running Abyss and tour guide. I was running Diva and One Day of Peace. Now, what we came to is that I would take out my Diva lineup, and he'd take out his Tour Guide lineup, and I would put in three Gishki Abyss, and he'd put in one Day of Peace, because we figured this deck has a lot of momentum, but on those turns where you can't, like, you just can't have that momentum, you're still trying to set up your plays. One Day of Peace really helps. Like the turns where you have to summon that Gishki Abyss, or you have to play the Doom Lord, or say, I don't know, just some kind of play where you don't have the turn you wanted, then One Day of Peace really helps that out.
Yeah, I agree. And then what we were talking about earlier too is that this deck kind of forces you into plays, and like with your resources, like your malicious resources and your plague spirit resources, and like one day a piece kind of like negates that, so you can kind of sit on your resources a little bit longer instead of trying to get so much field presence, so you don't get OTK'd. And so we kind of agreed that like
Yeah,
yeah, and so we kind of agreed like taking out the tour guide and deep seats for the one day a piece kind of justified the abyss too, because I just gained your resources even more.
yeah.
So it kind of makes sense putting those in there.
Because what the deck does is it sets up its plays and then it explodes. But there's a gap between those two steps where you're not doing anything. Like you don't want to force yourself into using resources so you don't lose, but you also don't want to just sit and pass turn without having done anything.
Yeah, exactly. And like there is really like a usually a one, but rarely like probably a two-turn window where like you're accumulating a resource and there are plays you could do, but you really just want to like again like he said the whole thing of this deck is just to hit them hard in like one turn. I mean this deck can really just explode on certain things, and one day a piece kind of makes it so you don't have to just do
You don't
nothing
have
and then
you don't
potentially
have to rush that. You don't have to
yeah
rush that turn to
before
where
you're
you just
ready.
explode. That's what the deck
Exactly.
kind of did. It rushed you to that turn.
Exactly, and then you don't. It also helps for OTKs, which are rampant right now, so that's cool too.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
what else
what
about
do you want to talk about next?
it? Well, let me justify. Well, we kind of did already justify Gust cracking, I suppose. Oh yeah. Do you want to talk about Burial from a different dimension? Because that was a pretty cool idea that you thought up of. So,
Oh yeah, Burial from a Different Dimension. We decided to play this card. I was already playing it. He never really looked into it until I told him about it. But once I told him about it, we definitely we definitely had a mutual agreement to play that card.
oh yeah.
Um, uh, the reason it's so nutty in this deck is because um, once you run through like your Plague Spreader and your Mally, or you've used Miracle Fusion, you can just activate Burial from a different dimension, put them back into your graveyard, and then you Ritual Summon Mind August, put one Mally back into the deck. You put like the Burial back into your deck so you can use it again, and then you just put all the other resources you want, like your One Day of Pieces, your Miracle Fusions, all those kinds of things. You just put resources back, along with being able to reuse Mally and Plague Spreader.
Another thing also I found too, because I've tried this deck, the rough version at locals once, is that Dimensional Prison is actually getting run kind of a little bit more than it used to be, and now like they deprison something like one of your ritual cards, and then they kind of f's you over. So now Burial also helps for that. And also Bottomless is getting played a lot more too. So it's like it's an out for commonly played cards, and it helps actually combo the deck better because you can reuse, like you can pretty much recycle all your resources that are used to punch them in the face.
Yeah,
And another thing, guys, I want to justify too. We took out, so we only had two visions and two ritual monsters, which is four targets. But you could only need that, and that's the reason for the abyss. Because before, you kind of like with only running two rituals, you almost seemed like you had to run three visions, but you kind of didn't want to because sometimes it wasn't the card you really wanted in your hand. But now, taking it to two and putting three abyss, you can get visions to your hand if you need a lot easier. So it really helps for that, and that's why another way we justified that.
yeah. A big thing with me was dead drawing vision. Like I just hated dead drawing it so much. But three was almost unjustified. I was like, three was too necessary for
The lineup.
having the three. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And Abyss kind of makes it so you don't have to get to an annoying situation of drawing a vision or two visions even firsthand God forbid.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I was running the 3 vision mostly because I was running divas at the time,
Hmm.
and divas could grab vision.
Yeah, exactly, because you see Serpent. Yeah.
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 So the next thing we should probably talk about is probably the extra deck. Like, this deck does play off of the extra deck a lot, and having rank sixes and access to rank sixes and such. But the secret options are also there because you can reuse plague so many times.
Yeah, especially burial and mining is things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Mind August and Tetra Ogre just combo off so well.
Yeah, they really do. They really,
Like
really do.
Tetra Ogre slaps Plague into the graveyard, and then you remove Plague, you Synchro, and then you Burial and play Mind August, and you
Hmm.
play.
And go from there. And that's
It's
another thing
just
too. The deck kind of revolves around Tetrogre a lot, and my August too, obviously. But Tetrogre's effect, you can either like a lot. Sometimes they'll discard for it, which is great. It gives you hand advantage. And if they don't, they're kind of like iffy about it because they don't really know what you're playing. So sometimes they'll just let
yeah,
it go through, and then you send like a malicious to the grave, and they're like crap because they know that was a really bad decision.
yeah.
So,
See, my thing is, I whenever I play somebody and I don't know what they're playing, when I use Tetra Ogre the first time, I always make sure to call a spell.
hmm.
I'll call a spell and I'll see what they ditch, and I'll always ditch, the Aqua Mirror.
And so you can just put it back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I look closely to see what they ditch. Like one time, a few times, I'm playing decks and they'll ditch like one of their spell cards they can either live without, or they'll ditch something that gives away what they're playing. Like I was playing against Rabbit and I went first and I got Tetra Ogre out and I called spells. I ditched my Aquamir, and he ditched Pot of Avarice, which I have no clue why he would ever ditch Pot of Avarice, but um, he ditched Pot of Avarice, and from there I automatically guessed he was playing Rabbit,
Hmm.
and I played around the Rabbit the entire game, and he just could not get his plays off.
Yeah, exactly. And like the intel that it potentially gives, especially since like you're not even really ditching a spell because eventually you're gonna recycle it anyway. It's just inevitable
Yeah.
with this deck. So yeah, it just plays really well.
Yeah, I just always call spell to see if they're playing, and then once I know what they're playing, if it's safe to call monsters, I will call monsters.
Yeah, yeah. That's another
Like,
thing too because you might run into a deck that actually benefits from putting a monster to the grave.
yeah, like my teammate Sloppy, he plays Light Sworns, and he loves me. He loves when I call monsters with Tetra Ogre.
He's like, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. But yeah, so the deck goes into a lot of good. It's really easy for it to go into six XYZs, like super easy. It's one of its
right.
strengths. You want to talk about some about that?
Yeah. So the ability for the deck to go into rank 6 XCs is completely nuts. Like, it's you can usually get first turn Ritual Summon and then a Mally, and go into like, okay. I'm gonna rant for a little bit.
No problem.
Do not first turn Strike Bouncer unless you're absolutely sure of what they're playing.
Yeah.
Don't do it, just because Bouncer is a card that needs protection unless you have advantage. If you have the advantage, you can throw Bouncer around. But Bouncer is a card that needs protection. He's like a Thunder King. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So don't just throw Bouncer around willy nilly because he's a very, very powerful card.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And the fact that
So
yeah,
I'd always go like, I usually try and go either first turn Sword Breaker, or in like my Heretic Gishkis, I'll go into first turn Force Focus.
Force Focus. Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, Force Focus also is really good, and you can kind of bait them a little bit with it too. So yeah,
Yeah. But Sword Breaker is really good because I can do it. You can. I think you. No, you can't do it on either player's turn. But Swordbreaker is a really good kind of first turn card because it puts the big ass monster on the board, and then they'll first turn automatically try and work around this Swordbreaker being on the field. But then again, you also don't lose the advantage of having a strike bouncer ready to go when you need it.
exactly. And the Swordbreaker is also good just for taking off cards that like you can't get over like the 3,000 beat sticks or whatever. It's kind of like a mini Catastor only for type. So
Yeah.
actually not a mini Catastor, I guess a bigger Catastor. But
Now, I think I've shown this in a couple duels I have on my channel, but oops, um, Exabeetle, too broken.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
you go Exabeetle, get something off their side of the field that's a problem, overlay into Thunder Dragon, and attack for a shit ton of damage. And actually, one time I equipped. I was running Sangan in the build at one time, and I equipped the Sangan to the Exabeetle, and he didn't have anything to destroy, so I just overlaid the Thunder Charger, sent the Sangan to the graveyard, got my search, ritual summon, and attack for game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Exeggutor can be extremely, extremely good. And just for the fact that you can pop one and immediately go into a 2600 beater, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's just super nuts.
Hmm.
Plus, Exabeetle is going to get something off the field because they're either going to waste 2,000 to negate it with Solemn Warning or just let it go because Bottomless is being played over Torrential this format. I saw from
Hmm.
like most of the deck profiles, Bottomless is being put in over Torrential,
Yeah,
and with that, their Bottomless can't hit Exabeetle.
which is awesome. And yeah, I've seen Treadshell going to 1 or 0 in a lot of decks as well. And it's
Yeah,
it's funny too because even if like they do like Solemn, your Exeggutor will then use Mirror's effect to return the ritual monster to your hand, so you're constantly getting hand advantage
yeah.
with the Mirror effect.
In the Exabeetle loop, I call it a loop because it is reusable in this deck. You just put your Exabeetle and your Thunder Charger back with Mind August, and you're good to go. You know?
And you just keep doing it over and over again. And
Yeah.
that's another thing, like too, the fact that I just want to touch on real quick, the Aquamir like engine, I guess you could call it, we're putting into your hand, is what kind of like fits everything really just really well together. Because you like detach for some of these XYZ monsters effects, and then you can just Aquamir them back to your hand again, and it's like retarded.
Yeah, it really is. Something else, a key point of the deck that most people tend to overlook in decks like this is Dasher.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Dasher is nuts because, especially comboed off with Mind August or Stratos, it's just ridiculous.
yeah. His second effect, like people forget about, and it's retarded sometimes.
Yeah, or they'll remember it and they'll pitch it for something and then forget it's in the graveyard to have.
Yeah, exactly. And like
Like,
Dasher with like Gishki Abyss is like so good. Like a free special
yeah,
summon, and you get its effect off. Ugh.
yeah, it is pretty nutty. So yeah, okay. I think that'll wrap it up for the first episode of the series. It ran a little long because of the fact that we
Had a
uh,
break.
we had to explain this the situation going on with the series,
Yeah,
and then give you guys an overview of kind of our base build. And we'll edit from here. You guys keep up with the series if you like it, and I think it's going to be a great thing to do. We'll get a perfect build for this deck.
yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited, for us to get a perfect build, and for you guys to see our build and maybe try it out. And even if you have some criticisms or suggestions in the comments, let us know. Like this is a Team Sloppy Tater and an Axe Tyler subscriber, thing. We're trying to build it with each other, but we're also trying to build it with you. And
Yeah.
we really want to get your feedback on it. So yeah.
And I'll definitely have a link to your channel in both the description and on an annotation on the screen.
Yeah, same here. So yeah, make sure we're communicating and all that good stuff. And yeah, anything you want to say before we head out?
I'm Taters from Team Sloppy Taters. Like, comment, and subscribe, guys.
Yeah, Zach's Tower guys, and we're signing out. And thanks for checking us out.
All right, see you guys.